and Major Newscast.
Good evening. I am Tashan Tyson in with your VAN News package for today, Tuesday 29th January 2019. In our lead stories, nationally, Medical and the Public Health Acts to be amended as the government moves to implement universal health care. And Prime Minister Harris leads CARICOM delegation to meeting with the UN Secretary General on Venezuelan issue. Regionally, Venezuela's president backtraps on expulsion of U.S. diplomats from the country. Internationally, U.S. shutdown cost $3 billion, says Congressional Budget Office. And in sports, Shelley and Elaine open with victories at Grace Jackson event. We'll have the details of these other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back. Another national news in detail. There will be an amendment to the present Medical Act and the Public Health Act here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Chairperson of the St. Kitts and Nevis National Commission for Universal Healthcare, Azella Clark, says this will be necessary as the government moves to implement universal health care. According to the chair of the commission, currently there are only 6 medical professions registered under the Medical Act. These include doctors, dentists, chemists, podiatrists, opticians, and chiropractors.
The new Medical Professionals Act will allow for professionals such as psychologists, social workers, therapists, nutritionists, all the gamut to run. With these revisions to these acts, it is possible for herbalists to be duly registered and regulated by the country, so that they also have to go to their continuing education credits to make sure that they're keeping abreast of whatever is the modern and current age and research to make sure that they're offering them.
Ms. Clark said that by expanding the profile of health professionals in St. Kitts and Nevis, it will ensure that persons receive comprehensive care. Caribbean Community CARICOM Chairman and Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Honorable Timothy Harris, has voiced concerns about the situation in Venezuela to United Nations Secretary General H.E. Antonio Guterres. Dr. Harris led a high-level delegation which included Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honorable Mayor Motley, and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Honorable Keith Rowley, to a meeting with the UN Secretary General on Monday, 28 January 2019. The CARICOM delegation made an offer to facilitate dialogue among all parties to resolve the deepening crisis in Venezuela. The meeting was a follow-up to last Thursday's special emergency meeting held in Guyana by the CARICOM heads of government. During the meeting, members decided to have Dr. Harris seek an urgent meeting with the United Nations Secretary General to request the UN's assistance in resolving the issue. The shuttle diplomacy will continue as the CARICOM leaders have further meetings with Canada's ambassador and permanent representative to United Nations, H.E. Marc-Andre Blanchard, Russia's ambassador and permanent representative to United Nations, H.E. Vasily Nebenzia, and others. Persons here in St. Kitts and Nevis are urged to practice good personal hygiene to reduce the risk of transmission of influenza and other respiratory viruses. Influenza is a contagious respiratory illness caused mainly by 2 types of viruses, influenza A and influenza B. The Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, says that flu is characterized by a sudden onset of high fever, cough, usually dry, headache, muscle and joint pain, severe malaise, sore throat, and runny nose. It says most people recover from these symptoms within a week without requiring medical attention. but influenza can cause severe illness or death in people at high risk. CARFAS says, given elevated flu activity in the Northern Hemisphere, combined with the high travel season to the Caribbean, it is important that people take the necessary steps now to protect themselves and their loved ones from the flu. It says vaccination remains the most effective way to prevent the disease, and that safe and effective vaccines have been available and used for over 60 years. Vaccination is especially important for health workers and people at higher risks. Former Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Ivan Charles Buchanan, CBE, FRSH, JP, was laid to rest on January 28, 2019, which was held at the Wesley Methodist Church on Seaton Street in St. Kitts. The service was attended by family, friends, well-wishers, and members of the federal parliament, including Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Sean Richards, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, Senior Minister, the Honorable Vance Amory, etc. In his written tribute, Prime Minister Dr. Honorable Timothy Harris said that he had the honor of seeing Mr. Buchanan's work up close as an elected member of Parliament from 1993. In honoring Mr. Buchanan, the Right Honorable Sir Kennedy Simmons said, Ivan Buchanan was an outstanding patriot and lived a life of great service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Mr. Buchanan served as Speaker of the National Assembly for 10 years from February 6, 1985 to 1995 under the Kennedy Simmons People's Action Movement PAM-led administration. He was a civil servant for 27 years, is survived by his wife of over 4 decades, Mrs. Beatrice Buchanan, 10 children and many grandchildren. The construction of a new police station in Sandy Point will benefit not just the police but other agencies as well. At the recently held groundbreaking ceremony, Director of the Public Works Department, Cromwell Williams, said that it would house the police, the fire and rescue services, and the customs department along with the magistrate court. According to Mr. Williams, it will be a 2-story concrete masonry structure with a footprint of 10,834 square feet and an overall area of 17,920 square feet. Acting Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy said that the groundbreaking ceremony marked the start of construction of a brand new facility that would meet the needs and demands of police in the area. The police station is expected to be completed by February 15, 2020 and will cost around $5.5 million. And finally, the Solid Waste Management Corporation, SWMC, can now increase its efficiency in keeping the Federation clean with the commissioning of 3 new 20 cubic yard compactor garbage trucks valued at EC $1.5 million that were added to its fleet. The new trucks began operation on Monday, January 28, 2019. Minister of Health and the Environment, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, said at the commissioning of the trucks on last Friday that the trucks are the latest of many projects that in recent years have been unveiled by the SWMC. He outlined that while it is the responsibility of those who work at the department of the SWMC to keep the country clean, it is a national responsibility as well for persons to keep their surroundings clean. In giving the rationale for having more garbage trucks, he said that there are only 11 garbage trucks on the island, which is insufficient for the island with a population of 40,000 people, with thousands of businesses and other institutions. That's the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or check us out on Facebook at Von Radio and our Von Radio YouTube channel. News from across the region is next.
something different to everyone. It's a place you love, a place as unique as you are, a place where you can be yourselves, a place for life's big surprises, and not to mention the small ones. Moments to cherish and moments that last a lifetime. It's a place for nurture and a place where you can grow together. It's home. So whether you're building, purchasing, or renovating, the Bank of Nevis is here to open the door, giving you the confidence to dream and the help you need to get there with a mortgage loan from the Bank of Nevis. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Welcome back. Now the regional news in detail. The government of Venezuela has backtracked on a decree by President Nicolas Maduro giving U.S. diplomats 72 hours to leave the country. The Foreign Affairs Ministry said that it is now negotiating the establishment of a U.S. interest office in Venezuela and will allow U.S. embassy personnel to remain in the country while talks take place. The statement said talks about an interest section will have a 30-day limit, and if no agreement is reached, embassy personnel will then have to leave the country. Meanwhile, international reactions to the attempted ouster of Maduro by National Assembly President Juan Guaido have been mixed. Spain on Saturday gave Maduro an ultimatum, saying it would recognize Guaido as president unless he calls elections within 8 days. The Caribbean community CARICOM issued what Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown described as a timid statement endorsed by 13 of the 15 member states. Out of Haiti. Teachers at a secondary school have vowed to remain off the job until the authorities make good on the promise to pay outstanding arrears and appoint new teachers dating back to several years. The teachers at the Faustine Suluk High School, who began their industrial action on January 14th, vowed to continue even though students have been staging street demonstrations demanding that their teachers return to the classrooms. The teachers are demanding the payment of outstanding salaries for the period 2013 to 2015, the appointment of teachers to work in the classrooms, and payment for teachers who have not been paid for many months. Moreover, they are calling on the authorities to respect the rights of students who have clashed with police during their street demonstrations. However, Commissioner of the Government, Forgy Pierre, stated that any teacher who incites students to participate in any form of violence would be arrested. The teachers have also denounced statements and threats, as well as a smear campaign they claim being orchestrated by the local authorities. Out of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Sandals Resorts International's SRI decision to temporarily close its operation of beaches over successive years has caused questions to be asked of the government in the British Overseas Protectorate Caribbean island. Sources connected to the SRI, which owns the Turks and Caicos Resort Villages and Spa, have declared that the leading Caribbean resort chain does not owe the government any taxes, and in fact, it is the other way around. Sandals issued a statement which reads, "Beaches, Turks and Caicos Resort Villages and Spa will be closed from September 3rd to October 15th in 2019, and from September 7th to October 22nd, 2020, and then for an indefinite period from January 2021. TCI's Premier Minister of Finance, Charlene Cartwright Robinson, issued a statement in response to the release and said that her ministry had been addressing the long-standing issue with beaches. She added that it has not been a matter of beaches avoiding taxes. Out of Antigua and Barbuda. The Judicial Reform and Institutional Strengthening Jurist Project, in collaboration with the High Court of Justice, created history on Monday when it officially opened the Sexual Offences Model Court, SOMC. The Juris Project is a multi-year regional Caribbean judicial reform initiative founded under an arrangement with the Government of Canada and being implemented by the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ. Finally, out of Anguilla. An acting High Court judge has been sworn in to serve in the Anguillan Circuit of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court following the retirement and departure of Justice Cheryl Mathurin. The newcomer is Justice Sean Innocent, whose previous position was magistrate in the British Virgin Islands. The oaths of appointment and allegiance were administered by His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Tim Foy, OBE, in the Executive Council's chambers on Monday morning, January 21st. Mr. Innocent, a national of St. Lucia, will act as High Court judge in Anguilla until July this year, pending a later decision. He has been a guest at Zemi Beach Resort at Shoal Bay, pending his movement to Little Harbour, where Justice Mathurin resided. Justice Innocent has been in the legal profession for 23 or 24 years. He served as magistrate in Tortola BVI. This is his first stint as a High Court judge. That's it for Original Stories. Stay with us for news from around the world. Welcome back, and now the international news in detail. The partial shutdown of the U.S. government is estimated to have cost the U.S. economy $3 billion. The loss is expected to slash 0.02% from the country's growth in 2019, the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, said. The agency said overall damage amounted to about $11 billion, but much of that will be recovered as work resumes. The shutdown, the longest in U.S. history, was triggered by disagreement over President Donald Trump's demand that Congress include $5.7 billion to build a wall along the Mexican border in a new funding bill. President Trump ended the impasse on Friday when he agreed to back a deal to temporarily fund the government until 15th February. Pakistan's top court has rejected a challenge to the acquittal of a Christian woman on blasphemy charges. The Supreme Court upheld its decision to overturn Asia Bibi's conviction and death sentence. She was originally convicted in 2010 after being accused of insulting the Prophet Muhammad in a row with her neighbors and spent 8 years on death row. Here is more in this report.
It certainly seems that this is the end of the ordeal, and it's hard to overstate how much of an impact this case has had on Pakistani society. It's come to symbolize not only the controversy around the country's hardline blasphemy laws, but really the divide between more liberal and fundamentalist segments of society here. In terms of today's ruling, it seems that now there is no legal reason at all why Asia Bibi would not be able to leave the country, which we understand she wants to do.
UK's Prime Minister Theresa May has said she will talk to the EU later about reopening negotiations on how the UK leaves the bloc on March 29th. She is expected to have phone calls with the EU leaders throughout the day ahead of a series of Commons votes over the future direction of Brexit. The EU has ruled out making changes to the legal text agreed with the UK PM. However, Mrs. May has told her cabinet she will seek changes to the controversial Irish backdrop. A California doctor is fighting for his license after he prescribed cannabis cookies to a 4-year-old boy. Dr. William Elderman said small doses of marijuana could help control the child's temper tantrum. The doctor misdiagnosed the child as having bipolar disorder and attention deficit disorder, ADD. The Medical Board of California ruled to revoke the doctor's license, but he has launched an appeal. However, the boy's father has said marijuana had a positive effect on his son. And finally, Norwegian Air wants to raise 3 billion Norwegian kroner through a rights issue to improve its finances. Its preliminary earnings for 2018 showed an operating loss of roughly 3.8 billion kroners. We have more in this report.
Norwegian is facing a race against time. The airline has expanded rapidly over the past 5 years, more than doubling the size of its fleet. It's also become a pioneer of low-cost, long-haul travel, offering cheap transatlantic flights using brand-new, fuel-efficient aircraft. However, all of this has come at a price. The airline has debts of more than $3.5 billion and expects to make a loss of nearly $450 million for 2018. International Airlines Group last week abandoned plans for a takeover.
That's it for our news segments. The latest in sports is next.
Most of us spend the better part of each weekday at the workplace. So why not make your office environment the kind of setting that helps you function at your personal best by outfitting it with top quality furniture, high-end photocopiers, printers, versatile office supplies, and the latest technology. The friendly and knowledgeable staff at the TDC Business Center are happy to provide you with personalized service to help you create an office space that's the total package. TDC Business Center, providing solutions that work.
Welcome back. Another sports in detail. In athletics, Jamaican star Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce and Elaine Thompson, who won the last 3 Olympic 100-meter titles, opened their seasons in style, clocking 7.21 seconds and 7.24 seconds respectively in the 60-meter dash at the Queen's Grace Jackson track meet in Jamaica. Fraser-Pryce, who sped to Olympic glory in 2008 and 2012, was well clear of Donia Ewers of the University of Technology Jamaica, UTEC, who finished second in 7.55 seconds. Shabani Nanda was third in 7.56 seconds. Fraser-Pryce's time was just outside a record of 7.02 seconds held by Elaine Thompson since 2017. Thompson, who struggled with injury last season, also looked awesome in Heat 1 as she powered away from the field to win. Jodine Williams of Swept Track Club was second in 7.42 seconds, and Shashali Fobbs was third with 7.43 seconds. MVP's Nesta Carter was quickest in the men's 60 meters, clocking 6.67 seconds. Andrew Fisher of Spring Tech was second with 6.68 seconds, and MVP's Julian Fott third with 6.72 seconds. In tennis, Naomi Osaka, almost 4 months after winning her first Grand Slam title, has won the Australian Open final and her second Grand Slam title. She beat Czech's Petra Kvitova 7-6, 7-2, 5-7, 6-4. Osaka had been the stronger player before Kvitova's dramatic counter-attack in the second set, and she proved the stronger player afterwards too. In next to no time, she has developed the knack of winning when it mattered most. She is now ranked 4th in the World Tennis Association WTA rankings. In local sports, the Brownhill basketball tournament began on Saturday, January 26th. The event is the brainchild of Calvin Bramble, who sees it as a means of giving back to its community. The games for that night featured the Dynasty Ballers versus CG Rebels in Game 1 and the CG Massives versus Bronx Crisis in Game 2. The results of those matches will be given in a subsequent newscast. In boxing, former WBA World Super Middleweight Champion George Groves has announced his retirement from boxing. Groves, 30, lost his world title to Callum Smith in the World Boxing Super Series final in September. It was his 32nd bout in an 11-year professional career, and in announcing his retirement, Groves said he knew the desire to fight had left him. In a statement, Groves offered a prayer for Edward Gotnett, who suffered a brain aneurysm after their fight in 2016, leaving him unable to walk or talk. Groves said that this fight brought home the realization that boxing can have brutal consequences. George Groves won a world title and retired with 28 wins from 32 bouts. And finally, in football, Paris Saint-Germain's boss Thomas Tuchel says it will be super difficult for Neymar to be fit for their Champions League tie against Manchester United next month. The Brazil forward suffered a fractured metatarsal against Strasbourg in the French Cup last Wednesday. Despite Neymar's absence, PSG maintained their unbeaten start to the Ligue 1 season with a comfortable 4-1 win over Rennes on Sunday. Still in football, Cristiano Ronaldo scored an 88th minute penalty as champions Juventus came from behind to beat Lazio and go 11 points clear at the top of Serie A. Ronaldo, signed for £99.2 million in the summer, netted his 17th goal of the season with a thumping spot kick. Juve looked to be heading for their first defeat since last April when Emre Can miscued into his own goal. Juventus will be aiming to progress into the semi-finals to the Coppa Italia when they face Atalanta in their next game on Wednesday. That's it for sports. The General Weather Forecast is next. Welcome back, and now the local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. The weather tonight will be fair to partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Weather tomorrow will be partly cloudy to partly sunny with a 40% or moderate chance of showers before midday. Thereafter, a 10% or a slight chance of showers. Winds are east to southeast at 11 to 22 kilometers per hour or 6 to 12 knots. Seas do not exceed 1.5 meters or 5 feet. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:43 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the Media News package for today, Tuesday, 29th January 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at headlines once again. Nationally, Medical and the Public Health Acts to be amended as the government moves to implement universal health care. And Prime Minister Harris leads CARICOM delegation to meeting with the UN Secretary General on Venezuelan issue. Regionally, Venezuela's president backtracks on expulsion of U.S. diplomats from the country. Internationally, U.S. shutdown costs $3 billion, says Congressional Budget Office. And in sports, Shelley and Elaine open with victories at Grace Jackson event. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Tashin Tyson, wishing you a pleasant evening.